the guy who will go mano a mano against Mitt Romney if Romney keeps up what he's doing. These debates have definitely played to Mitt Romney's strengths. He's much stronger than he was 4 years ago. It showed up.
David Gergen, your thoughts?
Bring boxing back to Las Vegas, Anderson. They've got these debates. I think for a television audience, the fisticuffs, I'm sure, are quite entertaining. But I have to tell you, I think that Newt Gingrich, right at the end of the debate, had it right. This kind of bickering is not the road to the White House. Among the people on the stage, I felt that Mitt Romney acquitted himself very well as he was assaulted from right and left, and that he clearly does not like Rick Perry. There's no love lost between those two. But I thought overall he, again, appeared the most presidential. But there was another winner tonight. I can tell you that the Obama team, looking at this tonight, would be celebrating.
Donna Brazil, your thoughts?
Well, I thought it was a fiery debate, Anderson. Look, these Republicans know what it takes to win the Republican nomination. They appeal to their base. Herman Cain, who is the front runner in many of the Republican polls, came in to defend his 999 plan. He did it by simply not giving us the add and subtraction edition of it, but the vegetable or the fruit bowl, the apple and oranges. But I thought Rick Perry, who had a lot to prove tonight, came in ready to defend his policies. He was more robust than ever before. And I think going into what I call the preseason, when voters are ready to choose a champion on the Republican side, this is going to become a three-man race.
Gloria, for you, Gloria, what were some of the key moments tonight?
Well, first of all, starting out with all the attacks on Herman Cain on 999. And one thing I learned when people were attacking Herman Cain was why voters like him. He responded to all the attacks with a lot of good humor, talked about apples and oranges an awful lot, Anderson, but he really acquitted himself well. The interesting attack was from Rick Santorum on Mitt Romney, directly saying to Mitt Romney, you do not have the credibility as a Republican presidential candidate to take on Barack Obama on health care. And then, of course, Rick Perry raising the issue again of Mitt Romney's alleged employment of illegal immigrants as part of his lawn care team. He raised that. That was around in the last campaign, and he called Mitt Romney a hypocrite on illegal immigration. Very, very strong attack, and didn't give up on it.
Ari Fleischer, for you, what key moments really stand out?
Well, what I really liked in this debate was the big focus on fundamental tax reform, Cain's 999. It sparked a real debate, which if you're going to have major change in America, you need major scrutiny and you need major debate, and Cain has to make his case. We do need, in my opinion, fundamental structural change in Washington, and this is what presidential campaigns should be about. Big ideas, big changes, so let it out. Let it get vetted, let it get debated, let the pros and the cons emerge. This is really how our democracy is supposed to work, and I love to hear these debates about big, wonky, tough subjects, because frankly, this is what defines our economic future. Do we have a tax code that will allow us to have economic growth, or that's going to continue to mean we're stagnant in many ways and jobs don't get created? I like big ideas in campaigns. We're hearing it this cycle.
And if you miss any key portions of the debate, we're going to be showing you at 10 p.m. Eastern on 360, which starts in just a few minutes. We're going to be showing you some of the key exchanges that occurred. David Gergen, for you, was there a moment that really stood out?
Yeah, Anderson, what surprised me throughout was how personal the exchanges became. You know, the insults, the personal insults. And the one moment that I think, to come back to echo something we just said, was when Rick Perry turned on Mitt Romney and accused him of hiring illegal immigrants, said he was a total hypocrite on that. And then Mitt Romney turned right back to him and said, Rick, you just had a couple of bad debates. That was very personal. That kind of animosity that you see up there, I think it can be a real problem down the road to trying to run a united Republican campaign. And I think it also diminishes these candidates to a degree in front of the American people watching this. I continue to believe that Cain did not have such a good night tonight. I thought Rick Perry was a lot better. But Mitt Romney stood his ground when he was attacked. Time and time again, he had to stand his ground, and I thought he did that well.
Donna, for some of these candidates, I mean, this may be their last debate. The next debate is not until November. Some of them may drop out by then.
Well, as you know, Anderson, several of the candidates are likely to not have the resources necessary to file their papers to get on the ballot or to get their delegates. So this is clearly going to be a time, crunch time for at least Michele Bachmann, Rick Santorum, and perhaps Newt Gingrich. If they don't have the resources to compete, they may have to step aside. And John Huntsman, who decided not to show up tonight, he might also have to take a second look at his one-state strategy of just competing in New Hampshire.
It is just past 10 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States, 7 p.m. here in Las Vegas. We're inside the Sands Convention Center at the Venetian. Welcome to AC 360. 7 GOP contenders wrapping up their debate just moments ago. The tone this time contentious, personal at times, especially between Herman Cain and other candidates on taxes. As you might have seen, as we've been talking about already, there was also the explosive encounter between a very aggressive Rick Perry and a counterpunching Mitt Romney over illegal immigration. Our political panel has plenty to talk about. Before bringing them back in, though, I want to play some more key moments from the debate, which began with an all-out assault on Herman Cain's 999 plan. We're going to talk to him in just a moment. Let's take a look.
Herman, I love you, brother, but let me tell you something. You don't have to have a big analysis to figure this thing out. Go to New Hampshire where they don't have a sales tax, and you're fixing to give them one. They're not interested in 999.
Herman, are you saying that the state sales tax will also go away?
You're mixing apples and oranges. You're going to pay the state. No. You're going to pay the state sales tax no matter what.
Right.
Whether you throw out the existing code and you put in our plan, you're still going to pay that. That's apples and oranges.
Fine.
Yes.
And I'm going to be getting a bushel basket that has apples and oranges in it because I'm going to pay both taxes.
No.
And the people in Nevada don't want to pay both taxes.
You just don't have credibility, Mitt, when it comes to repealing Obamacare.
And each chance I've had to talk about Obamacare, I made it very clear. And also in my book. And at the time, by the way, I crafted the plan. And in the last campaign, I was asked, is this something that you would have the whole nation do? And I said, no. This is something that was crafted for Massachusetts. It would be wrong to adopt this as a nation.
That's not what
you're shaking your head. That happens to be.
It was in your book that it should be for everybody.
Guys,
you took it out of your book.
You took it out of your book.
His turn, okay, and mine. Let me.
You're allowed, Governor.
I'll tell you what. Why don't you let me speak?
You're allowed to change. You're allowed to change.
Rick, you had your chance. Let me speak. Rick, you had your chance. Let me speak.
You're out of time. You're out of time.
And those people that hire illegals ought to be penalized. And Mitt, you lose all of your standing from my perspective because you hired illegals in your home and you knew about it for a year. And the idea that you stand here before us and talk about that you're strong on immigration is on its face the height of hypocrisy.
I don't think I've ever hired an illegal in my life. And so I'm afraid, I'm looking forward to finding your facts on that because that just doesn't...
I'll tell you what the facts are.
Rick, again.
You had the word...
I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
The newspaper...
I'm speaking.
It's time for you to tell the truth.
You get 30 seconds.
Time for you
this
to
is
tell
the way the rules
Mitt.
work here is that I get 60 seconds.
Well, no, but the American
and then you get 30 seconons to respond, right?
And they want
Anderson,
to hear you say that you knew
would
you had illegals
Would you please wait?
Working.
Are you just going to keep talking?
Yes,
Are you going to let me
sir.
finish with what I have to say? Look, Rick...
I thought Republicans followed rules.
This has been a tough couple of debates for Rick, and I understand that, and so you're going to get testy. You have a problem with allowing someone to finish speaking, and I suggest that if you want to become president of the United States, you got to let both people speak. So first, let me speak.
This is one night when I hope what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas.
And we're joined now by Herman Cain, who's found himself soaring in the polls. Congratulations on that. How did you feel about tonight?
I felt good about it. I believe that the questions that I got, I was able to get a very specific answer, and I felt real good about it in terms of how I responded. It was a little frustrating at first because I was getting attacked so much on our plan, the 999 plan, and I really didn't feel as if I had ample enough time to counter some of it, but I know we had to move on.
What do you say to conservatives at a variety of conservative publications, Grover Norquist, among others, who are saying that this 999 plan, the more you look at it, it's going to raise taxes on middle-class voters. It's going to raise tax on lower-income Americans
here's
as
what
well.
I say. They haven't read our complete analysis. That's all it is, too.
They say they've done the analysis.
No, they have not done the analysis. Look, we had fiscal associates analyze this whole thing from a static standpoint and a dynamic standpoint. We provide all of the analysis, all of the tables, and if they go through it, they'll see our assumptions. What some of these organizations are doing, they're making their own assumptions which do not agree with our assumptions. And so this is why I make my appeal to the American people. Sit down and do your own 999 math and see how it affects your family relative to the taxes you paid last year.
I want to show our viewers just some of the exchange that you had with Governor Romney on 999. Let's watch.
Herman, are you saying that the state sales tax will also go away?
No, that's an apple.
Okay.
We are replacing a bunch of oranges.
Okay. So then Governor Perry was right.
No, he wasn't. He was mixing apples and oranges.
Well, but will the people in Nevada not have to pay Nevada sales tax and in addition pay the 9% tax?
Governor Romney, you're doing the same thing that they're doing. You're mixing apples and oranges. You're going to pay the state. No. You're going to pay the state sales tax no matter what.
Right.
Whether you throw out the existing code and you put in our plan, you're still going to pay that. That's apples and oranges.
Fine.
Yes.
And I'm going to be getting a bushel basket that has apples and oranges in it because I'm going to pay both taxes.
No.
And the people in Nevada don't want to pay both taxes.
Basically, everybody on the stage is saying that this would result in more taxes. There are a number of Americans, 47% of Americans, who don't pay taxes right now, don't earn enough in many cases to pay taxes. They would be paying taxes under your plan.
No, for two reasons. Prices would go down. We take the embedded taxes out of the cost of goods and services in that first line because businesses are able to deduct those purchases made from U.S. companies. And what will happen is competition will drive down the prices, and as a result, people won't be paying anymore. Secondly, because of the new goods, used good rule, if you buy used goods, you don't pay taxes on it because it's been paid. Everything gets taxed once. This is why most people will actually see a tax decrease if they go through the math.
Well, earlier in the day, talking to my colleague Will Plitzer, you did suggest that you would be willing to possibly entertain the idea of exchanging one American soldier for everybody currently held in Guantanamo if al-Qaeda demanded that, if they were holding one American soldier for years.
If I said that, I spoke in error. Maybe I didn't understand the question. If I did say that, I would not do that because I believe in a philosophy we cannot negotiate with terrorists.
Okay, I just want to play for our viewers the soundbite that you said.
And I still can't hear it.
Could you imagine if you were president, we're almost out of time, and there were one American soldier who had been held for years, and the demand was al-Qaeda or some other terrorist group, you got to free everyone at Guantanamo Bay, several hundred prisoners at Guantanamo. Could you see yourself as president authorizing that kind of transfer?
I could see myself authorizing that kind of transfer, but what I would do is I would make sure that I got all of the information, I got all of the input, considered all of the options, and then the president has to be the president and make a judgment call. I could make that call if I had to.
I could make that call if I had to.
I misspoke because I didn't, it was moving so fast, I misspoke. I would not do that. I simply would not do that.
Because bottom line, you're saying that would be negotiating with terrorists. That
would be negotiating with terrorists.
Do you think Israel made a mistake in exchanging, they got home this prisoner, Gilad Shalit, who's been held for 5 years by Hamas, exchanged more than 1,000 Palestinian prisoners for that. It's very controversial in Israel. Do you think they made the right move?
Well, here's how I probably end up misspeaking about our situation, because I said Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu obviously had a lot of things to consider in order to make that decision. So what I'm saying is, I can't say that he did the right thing or the wrong thing just looking at it based upon the numbers. That was the point that I was trying to make. And so I probably misspoke when I went from that situation over to this situation. You got to have all the facts.
You have this juggernaut. You're now, no one probably predicted, I don't even know if you predicted this early on when you started running, that you would be up in the polls there with Mitt Romney. Do you have the campaign staff you need? Because a lot of folks have been saying, look, you guys are you're doing a big book tour. You don't have campaign staff. You only have, a few people here or there in New Hampshire and in Iowa. Are you hiring people now?
Let me correct a few misperceptions. First of all, we already have staff in New Hampshire, Iowa, South Carolina, Florida, and several other states.
How many people do you have in New Hampshire?
We have a staff of about 3 people in New Hampshire, and we're in the process of adding more people in New Hampshire. The other thing is, we are raising money. We got money to stay in this race. People are saying we broke. Now, about this book tour, we had 6 days carved out where we combined signing books for the release of the book, and mixture of campaign events. I didn't do a month-long book tour. We did 6 days, and half the events were signing books, and the other half of the events were campaign events. The other thing is, we are hiring people now. We're hiring people for our corporate office and for all of the states. We're ramping up. And the good news is there are plenty of good people out there, and we're adding them very rapidly.
And you're in this to win it.
In it to win it.
Herman Cain, thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Anderson.
Thank you. Get a lot of well wishes.